On this episode of That Kingsville Podcast, Kevin, measles.
Oh,
yeah, been running
itchy just thinking about it.
Yeah, you know what? You don't want to
be
hear.
spot on with this topic.
Oh my
This is
god.
just the intro. Just the intro, folks. We also talk local sports starting up because it's spring, almost, kind of, sort of. Baseball, soccer.
We've had some teasing, that's for sure, as far as the weather.
Oh, it's been gorgeous. And also Town of Kingsville information meeting about some available land in the area. All that and some witty jokes from the three of us on this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. Dorks. That Kingsville Podcast proudly brought to you by Kingsville Brewery. What makes a great beer, guys?
Kingsville.
Kingsville does make a great beer, but is it the crisp, refreshing taste, the perfect balance of hops or malt? Or maybe it's knowing that every sip supports a brewery that takes pride in quality and craftsmanship here in the town of Kingsville.
That too.
All of the above.
At Kingsville Brewery, we believe in brewing beer the right way. Small batch, locally inspired, and always smooth. Whether you're enjoying a light and refreshing Kingsville Hefeweizen, the bold and rich IPA, or the perfectly balanced light A lager, every pint tells a story and passion and tradition. So whether you're kicking back after a long day, raising a glass with friends, or raising a glass with friends, choose Kingsville Brewery, where quality meets community and every sip is worth savoring.
Delicious.
Canadian brewed Kingsville Brewery. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for supporting That Kingsville Podcast.
Yum.
Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave. Kevin and Steve. Boy, oh boy, gentlemen. Spring is kind of here. We're in mid-March. It's March break when we're recording this. And
Would you say it's sprung?
I would say so. Like, the birds are chirping in the mornings. The bunnies are out, getting ready for Easter.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to trudge through, centimeters of snow.
Get to wear my runners and not my boots.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
a big step.
Oh.
This episode is loaded with them, folks. So yeah, the time change, and then it was almost at the same time, daylight savings, and bam, here's spring. I don't know if they got together and talked about it and said, you know what, Mother Nature and Father Time
said, "Screw you, groundhog."
we're gonna do what we want. We don't answer to you, you stupid rodent.
Never really thought about it, but I bet you there are a couple.
I would say so.
Yeah,
I would say so.
What, like Burger King and Dairy Queen?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Just kind of,
Their kid's a
they
clown.
go together. Oh, Ronald.
Yeah.
Well played.
Harvey is their, weird uncle from, a different country that, can't really, be everywhere all the time except for the family reunions. And then, everybody kind of is like, hey, Harvey. No, it's going nowhere.
I love Harvey's.
I do too, but it's not on the top of your selection for fast food.
Well, I'm if I drive by and I'm like, ooh, I could go for some Harvey's right now.
Double original.
I love it.
His wife, Wendy.
Yeah. It's really the listenership of the podcast is just tuning out very quickly.
Yeah.
It's going nowhere. But
hopefully their fingers are too greasy from their Baconator that they're trying, but they can't reach the dial.
Well, what the nice weather means is Kingsville sports are going to start up here soon. So we've got soccer and baseball are usually the first couple that kind of kick off. So Steve, I think the local organizations have.
Well, actually, before we go there, I'm wondering if we can just highlight a couple of the Erie North Shore travel playoff games.
Absolutely.
That are coming. I'm just trying to take a quick peek at their schedules. So the U13B team has a game on March the 29th against Tecumseh. And I'm looking to see. Okay, so that's a way. I'm trying to if I can find any local games, because, we're running out of time to get our sort of local taste of minor hockey, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I see that the U14 travel team plays on March the 16th, which is Sunday, 4:50 p.m. against the Talbot Trailblazers, and that's at the Kingsville Rec Complex. And the U15 team has a couple of games coming up at home, scheduled right now, March 16th at 3:10, March 20th at 7 p.m. And there's nothing further that I can see as far as the travel games, but good luck to those teams as they, hopefully, I don't know. I've kind of lost touch with minor hockey over the last few years as far as, my coverage, obviously.
Yeah.
But if this is playoffs, good luck to them. And hopefully, we can have another championship banner in the arena soon.
Yeah, be great.
But going back to soccer and baseball, yes.
Yeah, they're getting started. So, we've got the field maintenance, obviously, is going to have to, be up to snuff and spec. But it kind of raises another question, too. I know we discussed it off the cuff, is what's the high school utilization for soccer fields? Is it because they don't have any on site?
No. So without going into too much detail, there was a concern from coaches as to where we're going to play. And it was, the town fields are not really accessible until mid-April. Plus the fact that high school games start at 4 and we are still on the fields heading into the time that minor soccer would need them. There is a piece of land behind the high school portion of the new school.
Yes.
That is to be a soccer field, but it needs to be basically leveled and grassed and everything else. So hopefully next season. It was suggested that the old KDHS fields be utilized. There was some pushback from what I understand from maybe the board level, and I can understand them wanting to, cut ties with the old building, but in a way precedent was set in the sense of, the gym at the new school wasn't quite ready at the start of the year. So the first teams, the girls basketball and the boys volleyball teams, played at the former KDHS. And Leamington High School actually used their old high school's field for 2 years prior to their fantastic facility being ready. So from what I understand, we have been given permission this year to use the fields behind the old KDHS, which is great. We appreciate that.
Yep.
Because we weren't sure, it's not just the games. Obviously, it's more so the practice time. It is a short season. There's only 3 home games per team, I believe. But having that field to practice and prepare was vital. So that's the word.
At least there is a plan for recovery because, like you mentioned, if the idea was to share the grounds at the Kingsville Recreation Complex, it isn't conducive to the schedule that
it's basically yes, the senior teams, both boys and girls, their season starts about a month and a half prior to the juniors. There is some overlap, obviously, on practice dates. So, it would be essentially at some point 4 more users looking to get on the town fields. And minor soccer does operate traditionally Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday with the Timbits or whatever it is now. So the big fields would not be used. But I know there are other groups too that are looking to utilize the fields. So more of a Sunday thing, I believe. But
now, does it make sense to just use Kingsville? Because as we know, like your migration is Harrow as well. Maybe you guys should be splitting between Kingsville and Harrow.
I'm not getting into this, Kevin. This is not my call.
No,
I'm looking for is a field to practice and play with the senior boys team. And,
if we're going to be fair,
hey, you know what? I'm not delving into that.
Oh boy. Yeah. But among that though, Kingsville Minor Baseball and Minor or Soccer Association will be starting up as well too, right?
Yeah, I believe actually umpire training for minor baseball is this weekend, or some sort of beginning. And they're getting started. So yeah, it's exciting. The town will be prepping the fields. They'll be out there soon.
Yep.
It's kind of an unofficial, change, if you will, from, because hockey season is quite long. Essentially, it's 7-8 months of the year.
Well, and the majority of the kids play all summer too, right? So
yeah, a lot of them do now. Tryouts are usually at the end of this season.
Yeah,
which is
crazy. It's crazy.
Okay, so if you want to go down that road, okay, I'll preface it. I am not a hockey player. I can't skate. I'm a fan of the game, and I like to think sometimes. I try and think logically sometimes. I think I'm sure there's a rationale for it. It allows the coaches, in my mind, in one sense, to know who they're coming in with, so that when the ice is put in, they can get started right away. They've got their team picked. On the flip side, I think, okay, you've got a 9-year-old who's maybe 5 feet tall now, and by the time the season rolls around, he or she has grown 3 inches, right? And their skill level and their confidence has gone up, and all of a sudden they're not making one team, but they're going to dominate another level. At the end of the day, it's probably not often that happens. You know, you like to think you want to pick from the best bunch of kids at that time. You know, and 3 or 4 months when you're a kid is a big difference, especially when you're 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, I was going to say, your son, like in a matter of like 3 weeks, he was, not, and then
me.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not my place to say it's right or wrong. I do question it. I have questioned it before, but hey, it works for them. So
we did fast pitch tryouts in the fall last year, and I thought it was a lot better, because then the girls are still in game shape when they're doing tryouts. Like they just played a full season. Then they do their tryouts, and then they get their time off. It also lets you do off-season training with your team, right?
Okay.
So like you can set up and do clinics, or if you want to give them some like workout plan or anything like that on their own, you can set that up with your team. So then, during the off season, hopefully they're working on stuff, or you're working with them on stuff, and then they come back. So it does give you a bit more leeway, but you're absolutely right. Like when you're dealing with kids, especially around, that 9 to 13, 14 age range, you can have the kids that all of a sudden sprout
Yeah. And those are valid points that I never considered, and it does make sense. I guess my flip to that would be simply, at what point do they get a break?
Yeah. 100%.
Right. I mean, my kids swim competitively, and they're in the pool regularly from September to the end of April into early May. And then they're off till the start of June, and they do a less competitive, but more intensive as far as practices go, into July and August. So they're essentially in the pool 10 months of the year. But that 2-month break is nice. So, but I don't know what sort of strenuous activities or how intense the off-season workouts are. And
every team's going to be different,
right?
For our team, we took a couple months off in November and December, and then came back in January for 1 day a week. So it's not onerous by any means, an hour a week. But I don't know about like minor ball, like we're doing fast pitch. They might have their coaches might have a totally different plan. Mm-hmm. But for us, like I can tell you, like looking at the girls that practice right now, they look just as good, if not better, than they did at the end of last season. So, going into the baseball season, once they get outside, it's going to be even better. So I do think that it makes a difference. And we saw it last year when we would go to tournaments, and we would talk to other teams that were doing it this way. And you could tell their kids were, just that much more polished, because they never stopped. Like they didn't get the rust and need to take, a month to shake the rust off before you can start having full practice.
And I guess from a development perspective, that it does make sense. So yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Now, RAC obviously should be nowhere near like that. You should be signing up, going out, having a blast, and then when it's done, you move on to the next. If you're doing selects or travel, it's a little bit different.
It's nice. We just have, a community that supports that kind of an environment for the kids too, right? There's a lot of other communities that aren't equipped to handle soccer and baseball and hockey and everything, and has quite the following. So,
well, I think we're kind of unique too, because in Leamington, I think they have essentially one organization for the entire community. If you look at Kingsville, we not only have Kingsville Minor Soccer and Kingsville Minor Baseball, we also have Cottam. Mm-hmm. I know Essex has 2 or 3, I believe, because
I think there was a change with Cottam Baseball. I think they joined with Lakeshore.
Did they go with Lakeshore?
I think it was Lakeshore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So
No,
okay.
and I think that's recent. It's either Essex or Lakeshore.
I know caught a minor ball last year. There was quite a few issues. I don't think they ended up with the season.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's difficult. Like I helped with Cotton minor baseball. My friend Sherry, if she listens, thank you, Sherry. I know she doesn't listen, but I'll just make sure that there's a shout out. When my oldest was interested in baseball, she did, hardball with the girls team, and her daughter was on the team and a bunch of other kids. But it was difficult because you're dealing with a much smaller talent pool, but there was a lot of interest. So it takes some horsepower to kind of keep that momentum. And yeah, a community like Cotton being, when we did all the amalgamation, arguably probably shouldn't have been with Kingsville, but hey, there's still kids out there that need the availability for sports, and yeah, it's good to hear that they've got some.
I appreciate the horsepower reference to Cotton.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
clever.
you. It was close. It was close. Well, mine's a little bit fewer and far between, but the dad jokes they continue. But so yeah, it's spring. Things are happening. Kevin, you've been living.
Just on the soccer too. Yeah. There's the new girls league starting.
Oh, the Counter In.
Yes.
Unite. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. I'll pull up.
But just a reminder that's also an option.
Yeah, I'll pull up the information again and just rimind everybody a little later.
Yeah, that's through SC United, right?
Yep. SC
Correct.
United. Yes. So yeah, again, get involved. If there's things for kids, get them out there.
Yeah, get them out.
If they're like most of the kids that I see all the time, they're like this in their room.
You know what though? I will say I think I'm starting to see a bit of a swing from that too. I think because parents, we've all sort of. We're more united than ever, I think, on that front. I'm seeing more kids doing more.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing stories of kids getting out more and doing more. And, I will say, Kellen does enjoy playing online with his buddies, and he'll go downstairs and, you can probably hear him 5 homes away sometimes because he's just having such a good time. But as soon as he heard the weather was getting nice, he's like, oh, I'm going biking. And he has. 2 days this week, he's been gone for 2 or 3 hours out biking with his buddies. Mm-hmm. So,
that's good to hear.
Get out of the house.
Yeah, come on,
give him the boot.
Scram! The sun's out longer.
Yeah,
get out there. But and a couple of us have had quite an interesting couple of weeks at work. So I don't know if you've noticed, but the two of us at the table were dead tired because of an onslaught of things. I'm dealing with percentages of increases over periods of time that aren't and are and aren't and are, but that's not what we're talking about because it's not necessarily Kingsville related. Cav,
I would argue that
I know
the tariffs could be, but not today. We won't talk about it today. I know it's fine.
It's taxing on the guy, so we're going to leave it.
Yeah, we'll leave it. Yeah,
we'll
leave
it.
But
yeah, we do have something that did make news because there were cases of measles identified in the community. And that's something we haven't heard about in a long time.
Yeah. So the Windsor Essex, so I have to, and every time we talk health stuff. So I am the communications manager for Erie Shores Healthcare. So very, very biased. Mm-hmm. Probably the most biased towards the hospital. So everything I say, just understand that it's coming from a place that is very much pro-hospital.
Sure.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good disclaimer.
I was going to say, it was like, I don't think there's many people that are anti-hospital last time I checked.
Like fair. Just,
fair disclaimer.
Just understand where these words are coming from. So
big drink of coffee first. Got to get through this.
So I don't know if you have correlated it in your heads. I'm sure you have subconsciously, but maybe not consciously. That the exposure notice from the health unit came out 5 years to the week from the first exposure notice for COVID.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's right now. Right now is when we started dealing with COVID 5 years ago. And if you had said 5 years ago that we were going to be dealing with this, not to the same extent, but dealing with an outbreak again. Only this time it's measles. Probably would have said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
COVID's going to be over in a week anyway. I don't care. But, it wasn't. And this won't be either. So basically, the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit has confirmed that there has been COVID cases in Kingsville, as well as other communities around. Measles, not COVID. Did I say COVID?
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
It's a lot to take.
Sorry.
We all
it's
have
okay.
It's been a long couple of weeks. So, no, measles. There's been confirmed cases of measles. And in multiple different communities that don't typically population bases that don't typically interact with each other. So it's not that it's one specific population group or one specific area or region that's facing this. It is crossing communities. It's spreading throughout the community. There have been confirmed cases in our hospital. There have been confirmed cases in other hospitals in the region. So it's here. It's not, and it's no longer whether or not it's going to come here. It's here.
So really quickly, I just pulled up the Public Health Ontario website, which is reporting where cases are. It's Chatham, Blenheim, Tilbury, Hamilton, Stony Creek, Simcoe, Port Dover, Delhi, Brantford, St. Catharines, Mississauga, Brampton, Madoc.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
I've been to Madoc.
Going to wreak havoc in Madoc. Golly. If you've not been to Madoc, that's a summer trip for you.
It's beautiful.
Tillsonburg, Ingersoll, Woodstock, Elmer, blah, blah, blah. And the list goes on, right? But Windsor, Essex County, we've got cases in Windsor, cases in Kingsville, cases in Ruthven.
Cases in likely to be announced shortly in Comber, probably Leamington. It's here.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter
but
which towns. It's here.
Right. I'm kind of like it's not just. Yes, correct.
It's not just our small area. Now there is a larger concentration in currently, it seems, as far as suspected cases based on compared to population base in our area so far, but that could change day to day, and everything with this is very fluid. So what does it mean? It means that you should be immunized. It's no different than when we were talking about COVID. You should get your vaccination. However, the measles vaccine has been around for generations. Our parents got the measles vaccine. We had the opportunity. I got the measles vaccine when I was a baby. We had the opportunity to get it when we were kids. Our kids have had the opportunity to get it. So it is a proven long-term vaccine. If you have had 2 doses of the vaccine, you are immune, or very, very high chance you are immune. Really, it as long as you've had 2 doses, then you're good. If you have any concerns where you think you might not be immune, there is a blood test that they can do to test it's called serology, to see whether or not you are for sure, and then you can get a booster. It doesn't hurt because the way the vaccine is, even if you are immune and you get a booster, it doesn't hurt you. It's not like you're piling up additional boosters. If you got it, you got it. And if you get a booster and you didn't need it, well, you still got it. Mm-hmm. So some places, and they haven't decided what's going to happen here, but some places in Public Health Ontario guidance is saying, don't even worry about testing immunity. If someone's concerned about it, just give them the booster. Guidance hasn't come out from the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit yet on how we're going to deal with that. And then every day, there's more exposure announcements coming out. The health unit is releasing them daily now. We've had a couple at our hospital that have been announced in our emergency department on March 6th into 7th and March 7th. And you can check all of those details on the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit website, as well as on their Facebook page to see the specific timelines on those exposures if you happen to be there. But other than that, it's really inside the hospital. For the most part, it's status quo. The one thing that you'll notice when you walk in at Erie Shores Healthcare specifically, we have a person sitting at the front door screening, asking you if you've been exposed to or suspect you have measles. If you answer no to their questions, then you can come in the hospital, no problem. If you answer yes to the questions and you need to go to the emergency department, then we just ask that you go back outside to your car, or it's nice out, wait outside for a couple minutes, call our emergency department, and a member of the emergency department team will come out and escort you into a negative pressure room, which contains the virus inside that room, so that we don't have an exposure outside of the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that's really the only difference. And there's no impact to care. There's no one gets turned away. It's just ensuring that those people who could be infected by measles have a safe way to get into the hospital. That's also not putting them into contact with other people who could be impacted by the measles virus. So it's weird. I gotta be honest. Thinking back 5 years ago where we were and creating signage for this was pretty surreal.
Yeah.
You know, now people have to remember measles is typically a childhood disease. It infects children more. Mm-hmm. And measles can be, for most people, you get sick. You get a rash. You're sick for a while. It's not great, but you get better. Measles does have the ability in some people to be fatal. And that's the one caveat that everyone kind of links, like measles, mumps, chickenpox, rubella. They tend to mix them all together. And measles is different in that in some people it can be fatal. So, just try to remember to make sure you've got your vaccine if you don't already. If you have any questions, reach out to your family doctor. They'll probably have your immunization schedule on your chart. If there are any questions around that, they'll have the best course of action for you to take. And then if you have any other issues, reach out to the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit, and they'll be happy to help. So measles.
So what's the usual first symptoms? Maybe I should look into this a little further.
Right. So the ones off the bat are what you would expect: cough, runny nose, fever. Mm-hmm. Where it gets a little bit different, that are kind of the telltale signs, are conjunctivitis, or like red eyes, like pink eye. Mm-hmm. You can get white spots inside your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then after those, about 4 days later is when the rash starts. And the rash will start on a person's face and then move throughout their body from there. So if you got red spots in your hand, it's not measles. if you've got a runny nose, red eyes, and you've got a rash starting on your face, moving throughout your body,
guess what?
Then
measles.
You probably have measles.
Measles. So the amount of how severe can this get? Like, COVID was, we're looking back at it 5 years post-COVID, the reactions and the overall severity of what happened. We misunderstood because it was new. Right. Measles is not new.
No.
Like, so, how big can this get, given that most of our population has some form of vaccination? Are we talking everybody is susceptible, or should everybody get, look into it just to make sure that we don't continue to perpetuate the numbers?
If you've had 2 measles shots, you're immune. If you know for sure your immunizations are up to date, you've had to do it for work, you've had to have a medical screening for volunteering, your immunization record, you're fine. Where it gets to be is if you aren't 100% sure if you've had 2, if you know you had 1, or if for some people it's very rare, but some people just don't develop the immunity. So they aren't immune. If you like anything health related, if you have questions or concerns, call your family doctor. And this is no different. This isn't COVID. Like a large chunk of the population has immunity to this virus. What the issue is trying to protect the people who don't have immunity to the virus. That's, young children, pregnant moms, and then anyone else in our community who has made decisions not to get the vaccine. So a lot of what's happening is trying to protect them to make sure that they don't contract the virus because of the way that it's spreading.
And how does it spread? Is it airborne? Is it like
it's airborne
discharge?
Yeah, it's airborne. It's significantly more contagious than what COVID was. So, for instance, if someone comes into a room who has measles, when they leave the room, a person can still be infected by the virus in the air for 2 hours after that person leaves the room.
Ooh.
So we have at the hospital, and it's happening at hospitals around the province. We have protocols where if someone comes into an area that we know is infected, and it's not a negative pressure room, then we have to shut down that area for 2 hours to make sure. Well, it also depends on number of air exchanges in that area and the HVAC system and the filters and everything. But rule of thumb is 2 hours.
What sort of precautions are docs and nurses having to take just as far as PPE and stuff like that? Is it different to COVID? Is it different to what they're regularly doing?
If the person's measles suspected, then it's full, we call it full droplet. So full droplet PPE, which is gown, gloves, N95 respirator mask, some form of face shield, whether it's shield on the mask or a shield, and then donning and doffing inside the negative pressure room. Outside of that, it's and it has been even through this past influenza and RSV season. It's surgical masks within 6 feet of a patient, and then anyone who is infected with the flu virus, then it's full PPE as well.
No, not to be taken lightly.
Not to be taken lightly. You know what? Like when I first kind of heard people talking about it when it wasn't here, like before it was here, and it was impacting our lives, and it was like measles. Like, how is that possibly a thing?
I ain't coming here.
I was gonna say, has anyone asked or said measles aren't real?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no, because measles are real.
But you.
Well, I mean, I don't read the comments, so maybe they are.
Yeah, we don't read the comments.
Yeah,
at all.
Dorks.
Yeah. So we just the idea of yet another kind of outbreak, just eerie, right? Just eerie.
it is. Here, two takeaways. First takeaway: if you are sick, you require emergency department attention. Call 911 or come to the emergency department. It doesn't matter if you have or do not have measles. If you do need emergency care and you suspect that you have measles, call the emergency department beforehand. That information is on our website. If you have any concerns about your immunization status for measles or are worried, call your family doctor.
It's perfectly sound advice, right? Like, you don't have to go on WebMD and self-diagnose. There's methodology. You can, make a couple of quick phone calls and get the help you need, or go ahead and take preventative measure or precautions and, just help control whatever outbreak might be possible if you're susceptible.
And if you don't have a family doctor, then there are ways for you to be able to look up and see what your immunization status is. You can call 811, Health 811. We'll put you in touch with an RN who can give you advice as well. Don't try to figure it out on your own. Get advice.
We know what
don't assume that the doom and gloom. If you have questions or concerns, get professional advice.
Yeah, exactly. It's not COVID related, or it's not even remotely going to impact society like COVID did.
No.
It can be dealt with. We know it. Like you said, we have vaccines. We've had vaccines. We understand what the measles are, and just take those precautions. So,
yeah, this isn't. It's not to incite panic. It's just that you need to be aware that it's happening.
Yeah.
PSA.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for, because we're not the news.
No, not the news.
And it just happens to be your profession and career. And it's worthwhile to communicate to a town and community where it's happening.
Yep.
So we're not the news.
Not the news.
Not the news.
No.
In other not the news, town of Kingsville, I guess we're firing back up all the public information sessions. It's spring. Might as well, get out of hibernation.
Get people out.
Hey, let's get as many people in a room as we can right now.
Boy, oh boy. So you like that lead in? That was kind of where I was going. It's like, if ever there was an opportunity.
Fill them up.
Can we get 20,000 people in a little building? So Monday, April 7th, 2025, there's a notice of public information review of the areas for development that the municipality is holding at the Grovedale Arts and Culture Center at 103 Park Street from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So from the Kingsville.ca website, why are we doing this? Under the Planning Act, municipalities must maintain lands to accommodate residential growth for a minimum of 15 years through residential intensification, redevelopment, and boundary adjustments. In keeping with provincial policy, the 2024 county official plan identified the need for settlement boundary adjustments in Kingsville related to approximately 90 hectares of land in Cottam and Ruthven, secondary settlement areas, to be reallocated, swapped, or in parentheses, swapped with an equivalent amount of land to Kingsville primary settlement area. So they're just adjusting town boundaries and whatnot. The town will hold a presentation during this time period, and discussion will continue on Kingsville's engagement portal. Have your say, kingsville.ca.
How many acres is 900 hectares? I always mess that up. It's like almost double, right?
It's not my area of expertise.
How many acres is 900 hectares? 2,223.
It's over double.
Acres.
So 2,200. That's a lot of property.
Yeah, that is right. And as we all know, there are official boundaries for the town of Kingsville, and we can find that on many different municipal websites and federal and provincial and whatnot. It just basically outlines, hey, here's the town boundaries. So yeah, as town grows, things need to be adjusted. Things need to be reorganized as they're indicating. So
I think it's the it's Cedar Creek to Kratz, right? Right now?
I believe you're right. It might even be before Kratz. I can't remember what the GIS system says on the east side of town. I can't remember. It's been a while. I could pull it up, but I don't want to.
Maybe it's the Greenway.
It might be. Anyhow, so on Kingsville, have your say, kingsville.ca, residents can recommend land around Kingsville that the town should consider. Lands be evaluated based on provincial and county policies to ensure lands can be developed responsibly. Municipal services, water, sanitary, and stormwater are planned or available to support new growth, and negative impacts of the boundary adjustments are mitigated as much as possible. So anything that comes from this meeting, administration will present recommendations related to the review to council in a future public meeting. So, hey, guess what, guys? You're bored. You want to have something. You want to find out. You were upset about a whole bunch of other things. You want to participate civically. Go to the Grovedale Center on 103 Park Street, April 7th from 6 to 8. And, find out what's going on.
It's a developing story.
So is there a map?
Not yet. No, I'm sure that'll be something that they'll present. So,
but how would someone know if they're impacted if they haven't released the map?
It's no. I don't think it's necessarily for whether you're impacted or not. It's to say, okay, these are the parcels of land that we have available for development. Yeah. This is what they're going to ask what you want to see done.
No, they're talking about swapping land. So they're reducing sizes of some development areas to increase sizes of other development areas.
Yeah, so it's a land swap. Like that field over there should be developed.
Right. So what if
underutilized?
If Jim owns that field? Does Jim know that his field is going to be talked about?
Possibly not. Jim should probably go to the meeting.
No, well, yeah, but for meetings like this, the town always sends out letters and notices to those directly impacted
surrounding properties. So anybody,
right? I mean, my parents, there's development proposed across the county road from near where they live, and they received a letter saying, okay, this is the proposal. So
there's development proposed across the street from me. I never got a letter.
Well, I would question Canada Post. Maybe it was delivered during the strike time. During the strike, maybe it got lost. I don't know. Maybe we could take that up with the town of Kingsville and maybe find out whether or not.
Well, I feel like how do you have a public information session asking people to come and comment if they don't show them the area that's being impacted?
Well, this is also this has been a longstanding kind of issue that we've repeatedly talked about. It's difficult for communication to happen in the methodology that Kingsville has now. The newspaper was by far the most effective method for the town to communicate to the general public in Kingsville. That reporter and anything like that.
But they have a website that they can put a map on.
That easy to navigate website.
Dave's on it right now. It's right there.
It is right here. I found it.
Like that.
Do you like my device?
It'd be nice if there was a picture.
Well,
what you do is you put like caret bracket and then IMG space SRC equals quotation and then like the location of the picture file and then quotation and then space and then alt because you want it to be accessible equals.
Do you guys want to learn coding? You can learn coding here on That Kingsville Podcast with co-host Kevin Black. Yeah. It's a little, you know what? Maybe this will be updated. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. It just came across, a day or so ago that we caught wind. And I would hope that would be what they do, because really, if I'm living on Pearl Street, I really couldn't care less about the boundaries because I'm not affected. I'm not impacted. And I would hope that there was, notices of, impact to the surrounding communities in these parcels, right? I would assume it'd be Division North, and then Main Street East and West to Seacliff or wherever have you, right? There's got to be something. We know town's growing. They have an obligation.
How do we know that? Maybe the
census, Kevin. The census.
No, maybe it's being taken away from the town is being added to Cottam.
Soon we will all be Cottam.
Maybe Cottam is enveloping Northridge. Maybe that's the plan.
Would that be? Or Ruthven is just sucking up Olinda.
Oh yeah,
right.
How do we know?
I don't know. We don't know.
Maybe it's going from Cedar Creek back to the golf course.
Okay. Steve is not amused. Steve is not amused in the least. Well, one thing's for sure. In light of
How do we know?
In light of everything,
You know what would help? You know what would fix this? A map.
Or a drawing.
Don't they have? Isn't there a map department?
Gary's even shaking his head.
There's a map department. Gary, did you know they have a whole GIS department? Their job is creating maps.
Oh, Kev, you get on a tear and you just don't stop. We got to rip that Band-Aid off. Forget it. You got to guess. Best guess we got right now.
I'm going to say that they've decided that anything south of Seacliff is just gone.
It's in the lake.
And they're adding it north.
I would say you're probably... Well,
Yeah.
no.
They're going to go to Road 4 now. Yeah, they're going north. Because that would make all the sense.
Oh, boy.
No, Steve?
I just think you're putting the cartographer before the horse. It's a stretch, but I've been waiting. I was trying to think of a map joke. And if anyone doesn't know what a cartographer is, they won't get the joke.
Steve, every compass rose has its thorn.
Gary's board's not even working. The board's not even working.
Sorry to cut you off. I am sorry.
This whole conversation's gone south.
Oh, it has. Yeah, well, we can't go any further. So, well,
Are you sure? I don't have a picture.
Wow. Oh, happy birthday to listener Sue Nurse.
oh, jeez, we're doing shout outs now. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
No, it's not my birthday.
Birthday host Steve.
When this goes to air, it will be.
I'll be older.
Listen, if you see Steve out in the wild on this weekend, right before St. Patrick's Day, wish him a happy birthday.
He loves a rum and coke.
I won't.
Or a Kingsville beer.
Yeah, I won't let anyone know your actual date unless you want us to, but that's fine.
This will be out after that.
It will be out after that. So you'll already have had your birthday. But
That's right. Old news.
lastly,
There's more.
there's more.
I thought you wrapped it up. That's why I threw the birthday shout out.
No.
Okay.
No.
Let's go more.
The sentiment and the unification of buying Canadian should have kind of been understood as these are initiatives that are happening right now, right? People are encouraged to shop locally. People are encouraged to participate in Canadian manufactured, Canadian sourced, Canadian grown, and purchase those things over others. And there's a lot of misconception about what is manufactured in Canadian or what is Canadian in content. It does take more time. It does take more effort. But one thing's for sure, investing or shopping in small communities keeps those dollars in that community, right? There's the statistics about how much of a percentage of a dollar stays. You know, there are businesses that support local community groups and sports teams and things like that. If we take all of the political aspect away, that should be what remains, is that when we support community businesses, community organizations, we're helping each other and we're helping those organizations support us in turn. So if you are cognizant, if you're aware of where your dollars are going and you do have a choice and it isn't something that, you know, as a budgeted necessity and you can afford to do so, please do. Because once all of this goes away, we still have to support our local businesses, our local communities. So they've been supporting us through those fundraising organizations, whatnot. That should be the thing that sticks with everyone, right? Rather than, you know, we're just making a point against another country, and that's the only reason why we do it.
Well, I think I think real threats of the whole 51st state thing that is clearly not a joke has really galvanized a lot of those feelings that you're talking about, and it's difficult for us here in a border area because there's it's not like where I grew up in central Ontario, where if you want to kind of give up being or doing anything in the States, it's pretty simple. You just don't go to the States to go do your once a year shopping trip and then go somewhere in Canada instead of instead of going to the States. But here it's a little bit different because for us, it means, do we go to a Tigers game? Do we go to a Lions game? Do we go across to Ford Field for a show? Do we go downtown Detroit and go out for a couple drinks, stay the night one night? Do we make the trip down to Toledo to see a game? Do we go across to Put in Bay? Do you go Cedar Point? All of those things that make up what would be a typical summer for a lot of us now are you have to look at supporting a country that, while it's not the general public and it's not the everyday American, but the government that's currently in power is actively seeking to hurt our economy and potentially try to take us over as a 51st state. Even though that's it's just saying it's so preposterous, because it's as people much smarter than me have written thousands of words about how it's impossible for it to happen. It still is something that that the threat alone is enough to make you want to start thinking about things.
It's unnerving. Yeah.
Like
the underlying effect, though, is that we knew that there was economic benefit beforehand shopping locally. We knew that. We just didn't do it out of convenience or out of, laziness or whatever have you. But I just pulled it up. The statistics are about 2/3 of the money that you spend stays in the community if you shop in a local facility, business, entrepreneurship, whatever have you, right? Whereas major chains, they've got much bigger infrastructure, huge overhead. It leaves the community. So, in this situation where it's kind of that galvanizing impact, understand that it's also having benefit locally in the people that you walk down the street with, especially in Kingsville, right? Through COVID, I hate to bring that up again. Look what the restaurants did. They all converted to takeout, and we all did, takeout Tuesdays, and, we all banded together because we had nothing else to do. We knew when it was over, we wanted to be able to have those things to keep going once it was done. And the only way to do so was supporting.
Yeah.
So I personally, I have to deal with, and as we touched on earlier, in the automotive sector, a lot of what's happening. I'm trying to concentrate that these are the choices that I get to make. And I understand that it's very minute, but if I'm able to do that, I know that there is a benefit locally. And then these are the people, again, they employ our children. They employ our neighbors. They're employers. They're providing services. Take the extra time. It helps.
People's decision, like especially around food. And obviously here we're more in tune with food, I think, than a lot of areas. Obviously, like we're surrounded by monstrous greenhouses. We have so much processing that happens here. Lots of amazing local products are made in this region that are sold across the country.
The continent.
The continent. Well, yeah, if you look at fruits and vegetables, but even Lakeside Pickles,
right.
TBQ, like any of these, fantastic brands that seem local to us, but are well known across, like you said, the continent. But it's when you start buying decisions on perishable items like food, especially produce, it has immediate impact.
Yeah.
And you can see it. Like when you go to a store now, U.S. strawberries are $1.99, and they're not $1.99 because the farm is giving a great deal. They're $1.99 because there's tractor trailer loads of them sitting at the Ontario Food Terminal that aren't being purchased, and they're about to go rotten, and so they need to move them. And seeing those flash sales and still seeing that product sit on the shelf is a significant message to. And they know, to Loblaws, to Sobeys, to Costco, Walmart, all these major buyers that buy by the tractor trailer load now have to make significant decisions about purchasing contracts they sign with New Jersey farmers for lettuce and green peppers, to sign with Texas to bring in Texas watermelons instead of local watermelons. All of these different decisions are being made now. And when those decisions, when they start looking at their sales and realizing that they're throwing out a significant amount of U.S. produce, well, now all of a sudden it starts giving our Ontario farmers more leverage in those same price negotiations.
There are so many different facets to the economic impacts across the board. We could fill hours, and there are other shows and people that talk about it. Bringing it right back down to Kingsville level, we have a lot of that here. We have the availability for fresh produce that a lot of Ontario doesn't have. Understand that, support that. There's roadside stands. There's growers all throughout this community for all sorts of different types of vegetables, fruits, meats. There's cheeses. There's microbreweries. There's wineries. There are restaurateurs. There are entrepreneurs for clothing and incidentals. You have options.
Well, and you'll have even more options come the first week of April when Leah Maria's reopens.
I wasn't even. That was a shameless plug. Strike that from the record.
Fine.
Golly,
you were doing so well.
We were
talking
so
on topic as well.
We were. Anyway,
but
that's not the only one. There are so many others, right? There's Carl's fruit stand.
There's Carl's fruit stand.
Carl's is great, and Adams is right, and there are so many other different ways that if we support businesses and things like that, that it just keeps us thriving. Yeah. And the worst thing that I would want to see is the community not thrive because some impact outside of that, it changed everybody's idea and we just stopped, right? So, hey, from my opinion personally, try to do as much as you can. Go out for dinner, visit a local restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, we do almost every week, right? And a couple of them employ our children, and we're thankful for that because there's enough of a demand for those restaurants in order to make sure that our kids can work.
You know where else one of your children
I do know where one of my children work also. Yes, Kevin, Lee and Maria's. It's crazy. Weird. Anyway, moving on. Thank you. But it goes beyond that too, right? Like there's a furniture store in Kingsville. Ernie's, like when the DeMarces owned it, we shopped there exclusively. We didn't go to the big box stores in Windsor because support and service, there was always somebody out to take care of us almost immediately if we ever had a problem. And his pricing was competitive. It wasn't like, oh, I'm in a small time community, I got to charge more because I'm going to move less. No, he knew that was the business. Auto shops, car repair, right? Like we have everything. Make those educated choices and understand that it comes back to benefit the community. Because like I said, the statistics are like 66 cents out of every dollar hang out still in Kingsville. And if we just, hey, times are getting tough and we all have to go to Walmart, where all that money goes? The Walton family in Arkansas, right? Through whatever means, right? It funnels out. So not to say that those places don't have a place in an economy. They do. And people do have to make those choices. But if you don't, choose wisely. Now is the time when we start singing the national anthem.
Play us out.
Thanks for sticking around. Kingsville Podcast. Please like and subscribe. The algorithm is getting it to more and more people. Again, we're not the news. We're just three nerds that sit around and yap at each other and look at a camera. But hey, guess what? You watch us. So like, subscribe, stay tuned. We'll see you next time on That Kingsville Podcast.